Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lieutenant Governor for the state of Michigan, Garlin Gilchrist II.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. Good morning. I'm really excited to be here at the Detroit Policy Conference. I bring greetings from my partner, our Governor, Gretchen Whitmer. I know you'll be hearing from her a little bit later today. I want to thank the Detroit Regional Chamber for the invitation here. I want to thank President Sandy Barua for his leadership, and we're looking forward to working in partnership. I want to thank Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan. I want to thank the entire Detroit Regional Chamber team and all of you who are here to participate, all of you who are leaders in your own right, making a difference in this community, in this region, and in this state. As a Detroiter, I am proud to be here with you on this stage. So the theme of this conference is Detroit 2030. But the question is, what's going to happen here a decade from now? But I think before we do that, we need to go back a little bit. We need to think about what were the narratives about the city of Detroit, both here at home and abroad across the country and across the nation over the last decade. And these are just a few of the examples. The death of a great American city. Why does anyone still live in Detroit? Billions in debt, Detroit tumbles into insolvency. And can Detroit be saved? That's an offensive question for so many reasons, but that was something that people asked. Can Detroit be saved? So my question, when thinking about that, can Detroit be saved? It's really personal when someone asks that question to me. So after I grew up in the city of Detroit, after I finished high school in Farmington, after I graduated in engineering from the University of Michigan, yes, thank you, March 9th, very different day than a few days ago. After that, I moved to the city of Seattle. You see, I was a software developer, and I thought I needed to go to the other side of the country to be the software developer I wanted to be in 2005. And even after that, for doing that for 4 years, after I got married, I went on to work for President Obama and then moved to Washington, D.C. to work in political advocacy. But when I was living in all these other parts of the country, that's when these headlines were coming through, these headlines asking these questions about the city of Detroit. And I had a very visceral and negative reaction to that. So much so that I ended up having to basically play the role of Detroit's lead defender in all these places. When people ask, what is going on here? What is wrong with your people? You need to get yourself together. What are you going to do about that? I took that really personally, so much so I even started a whole organization called Detroit Diaspora to convince people from Detroit like me who lived in other places like I did to connect with one another and then ultimately to go home, to be useful at home. I moved back home with my family, my wife Ellen, our 10-month-old twin son and daughter, because we wanted to be part of the future of the city that made us who we are. We believed that it was the best place to build a family and a future in the entire country. So that's why we came home. So now the question is, what do we have to do? How do we do this? Now we're all here together. All of you are doing the things that you're doing. How can we move forward? Well, I believe we need to connect our communities and we need to drive innovation. Now, let me take a second to think about and help you define innovation, because that's probably a word that all of you have heard a lot. It's a word that probably many people on this stage will use today. But very few people actually define what innovation means. So to me, something is innovative if it is new, if it's different, if it's better, and most importantly, if it's valuable, more valuable than the status quo to more people. Detroit was a real center of innovation that sought to connect communities based on this radical idea that everyone in the world could be mobile, that we could put the world on wheels and we could go anywhere and we could realize our dreams and define our future in a way that was not possible before. We need to have that same bold and radical approach to connecting our communities going forward and to putting things in place for us to define not just the next 10 years in Detroit, but the next 100. So what does that mean? The first element of connecting communities is transit and transportation. Now let me give you a personal story. Not just because I am a transit rider here in the city of Detroit. My 5-year-old twin son and daughter, they know how to ride the bus. I didn't drive a car in Detroit for 2.5 years after we came home. But I want to tell a specific story about my experience in the winter of 2018. So just last year, I was able to start a new job and start a new institution at the University of Michigan School of Information called the Center for Social Media Responsibility. Now, I live right down the street in Corktown. The University of Michigan, in case you haven't heard, is in Ann Arbor. So me, being the guy who does not have a car, we had to think about how am I going to get to work from Detroit? It would be amazing if there was some kind of transit opportunity for me to take advantage of to connect to this great chance that I had to do something that was world-changing at the University of Michigan. But that did not exist. So I had to try to piecemeal together a solution for mobility so that I could connect to opportunity. For me, that meant taking a Greyhound bus to and from Detroit and Ann Arbor every day. I don't know how many of you have ever tried to commute via Greyhound bus. Put it to you like this, the bus was supposed to leave at 7:50 in the morning. I did this for 6 months, 3 days a week, going to Ann Arbor because I was able to convince the university that I only need to be in Ann Arbor 3 days a week to deal with this problem. The bus was late 97% of the time leaving. And coming home, getting on the bus at 3:50, 3:45 in the afternoon, that bus was late 89% of the time. And to put that in perspective, I have young children. I like to be home and help them with dinner, go to swim class, put my kids to bed. But if the bus is 3 hours late, that's not possible. That was a terrible experience. Our communities were disconnected. That's an anecdotal way of me telling you the facts that say that Southeastern Michigan ranks dead last in the nation when it comes to transit investment. But we have a way to respond. We need to connect our communities. We need to have transit systems that are timely, cost-effective, that are coherent, that we have more than one way for people to get to the places they want to go, that are regional and that are available year-round regardless of the weather. This is something that is obviously possible because I would imagine that many of you have been to other parts of the world where this happens. And I don't believe that we are incapable of these things in the state of Michigan. I don't believe that we are incapable of these things in this region. Does this meet this definition of innovation that I laid out? If we can connect our community through transportation. It's new because we don't have it. It's better because now we have the chance to do something we could not do. It's different because it's great when you don't have to drive everywhere. And it's more valuable to more people because more opportunity, more ideas can be connected if we all work together. But that's not all we need to do in terms of connecting communities. We also need to make sure that people have access to the internet. Broadband internet access is the great enabler of our generation. And I want to tell a personal story about that too. See, my first job was building computers here in the city of Detroit. And I installed the first 5 I built with my own hands at the Weigel Community Center on the west side, one of the few rec centers in the region that has a hockey rink. And I got to teach a class and show people how to use those computers. I got to show a woman how to make a resume using Microsoft Word. I got to show senior citizens how to use the mouse by playing the solitaire game in Windows. But most importantly, I got a chance to show a little girl named April the internet for the first time. And when she got it, when she saw that she could type in tiger into yahoo.com, it was Yahoo back in the day, and she could see not only the Detroit Tigers, but she could see Bengal tigers in India. Like when that clicked for her, when that really set in, I saw her eyes pop wide open about the possibility. I saw her imagination lit on fire about what she could see and what she could do. By having every person, every household, every child in Michigan have that opportunity, that's connecting them to ideas that will not only find them work, but will create work for other people. That will connect them to education and training opportunities that everyone in our community needs to move forward. And it will enable them to see the world. Our role, our responsibility as leaders in the public sector is to enable and put in place the infrastructure so that everything that is possible is available to the people whom we serve. So I challenge all of us to step up and own that responsibility. Right now, everyone doesn't have access to that in the city of Detroit. Everyone does not have access to that in the state of Michigan. In the city of Detroit, we have an internet access rate, broadband at home, of about 50%. That's also true. That is exactly equivalent to what the internet access rate is in the entire Upper Peninsula of Michigan. This is an infrastructure problem that needs to be solved and that we plan to focus on. And I believe this meets our definition of innovation well. This is new and different and better and more valuable. And the third thing is we also need to enable entrepreneurship in all of its forms. I'm in a room full of business leaders, a room full of entrepreneurs, a room full of investors, a room full of people who have made things happen. We need to recognize that all types of people have ideas, and that those ideas are as diverse as those people. That in order for us to be a partner at the state level, we need to make sure that we are not discriminating against people who may have ideas, that we are creating opportunity for them and meeting them where they are. That yes, people with technology business ideas are important. I want to see as many gazelle technology companies as possible. I want to see another unicorn like Duo Security come out of the state of Michigan. But I also believe that there are amazing entrepreneurs who are waiting and willing and hungry to be supported and partnered with by not only businesses like yours, but state entities like mine, who can be supported in agriculture and agricultural technology, who can be supported in brick and mortar businesses, and who can be supported in creating, I would argue, the most enabling business that anyone can create, a daycare center. Imagine the productivity that's unlocked when we support the entrepreneurs who are doing things to support and solve hyper-local challenges that unlock the productivity of a community. But it requires a different posture. It requires a different set of policies. It requires leadership that is responsive to the needs of people. So what can we do to make sure that the size of this room, the membership of this organization, grows by 1,000 in the next 10 years? Because there are that many more successful people making the investments in themselves and the investments in the community to create solutions and solve real problems for real people. That is the definition of innovation, and that's what we need to be a part of. So what we need to do, what we are responsible for as the stewards of the public sector in the state of Michigan, is ensuring that we put in place systems and programs and policies that are truly responsive to people's needs. That's what governance in the 21st century is all about. You see, it's not just about technology and having something cool, having something shiny, having something fast. Like, that's all important. It's really about how can we get better at listening to the needs of people, better at listening to the needs of business owners, better at listening to the needs of anyone who is willing and ready and able to partner for the success of this region and this state. We need to recognize that those who need service and those who provide service must be both served well if we are going to succeed and thrive together. So the question is, how will we define, how will we characterize, what will the narrative be, not only just for the next 10 years, but for the next 100? And I don't think headlines really define a place, but they can give you a sense. I want to give a shout out to the leaders, again, the leaders in this room, the political leadership in the city of Detroit, the mayor and others, for doing hard work to turn this narrative around. But there's so much work that still needs to be done. And we are all responsible for doing it. But if we act on some of the things that I talked about today, we can see headlines that are a little different, that connected communities, ones that are connected through transit and through internet access, that they see more economic investment, that there are more people who have more access to education and jobs and opportunity if they have the internet in their home, and that there are more types and a higher number of very local businesses that are thriving because they had a partner in state government willing to work with and invest in them. When the governor and I say that we want Michigan to be a home for opportunity, this is what we mean. That is why I chose to move my family back to the place that made me who I am, because we believed that this is a home for opportunity. We want to make it so that when my 5-year-old children and my baby who's on the way in June, that when they come of age, they will know that they can be whomever they dream of being right here in the state of Michigan. And if we do that, if we make that true for every family, then that's how we move forward to a big, bold, and bright future. Thank you so much. God bless you.